Hello everyone and welcome back to One Nerd to Rule Them All. Today I decided it was only right that I do a video on King Théoden, played by the late great Bernard Hill. I want this video to both be a tribute to the actor he was and the incredible character that he portrayed. Bernard Hill came from humble beginnings, and it was clear to anyone who watched him on screen that acting is just what he was supposed to do. He leaves holding a record of Oscar wins that nobody will ever surpass. In his career, he starred in not one, but two of only 3 movies in cinema history to hold 11 Oscars, those being The Lord of the Rings: Return of the King and Titanic, where he played the role of Captain Edward John Smith. Both roles will be his for eternity, and no other cinema legend will ever surpass him. Earlier this week, Billy Boyd, who played the role of Pippin, had some words to say about Hill. He described Bernard in a way that I feel captures him and his role of King Théoden perfectly. He said, "I don't think anyone spoke Tolkien's words as great as Bernard did. The way he grounded those words in realism, and I think that's perfect." Dominic Monaghan, who played Merry, made a post on Instagram Sunday in Hill's memory, writing in a caption, "The broken king has passed to the Grey Havens, but he will always be remembered," which is so heartbreakingly beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to get onto the content now. My heart goes out to Bernard's family and those who loved him and hold him dear, and I know for a fact that the Tolkien world will miss him. So, to not delay the video anymore, let's get into the story.
I know your face. Heroine. My eyes dark.
No. I am going to save you.
You already did. Heroine. My body is broken. You have to let me go. I go to my father's, in whose mighty company I shall not now feel ashamed.
Théoden, son of Thengel and Morwen Steelsheen, was the 17th king of Rohan, last of the second line of the royal house of Earl. Théoden was the only son of Thengel and became king after his death in 2980 of the Third Age. Théoden spoke Sindarin and Western more often than he spoke Rohanese, due to the influence of his father, and spent a part of his youth growing up in the mountains vales of Gondor, his mother's homeland. His sister Théoden lived with him in Edoras, and after she and her husband both died, he adopted her children, Eomer and Eowyn, as his own. He had a son, Theodred, whose mother Elfhild died at childbirth. By the time of the War of the Ring, Théoden had been king for nearly 40 years, and was becoming old and tired. He was increasingly misled by his chief advisor, Grimmer Wormtongue, who was secretly in the employ of Saruman the White. Grimmer may have even been poisoning Théoden. In the last years before the War of the Ring, Théoden let his rule slip out of his hands, and Grimmer gained an increasingly large hold over him. Rohan had been troubled by orcs and Dundlings since this time of his father, and now by the new fighting Uruk-hai, who operated under the will of Saruman, ruling from Isengard. During the first battle of the Fords of Isen, which was one of the first 2 conflicts that marked the beginning of the War of the Ring, Saruman attacked the Rohirrim. It was during this time that whilst Théoden was under Grimmer and Saruman's grip, that his son died. The first battle of the Fords of Isen was the first of 2 conflicts at the Ford of Isen, and marked the beginning of the War of the Ring. On February 25th, 3019 of the Third Age, Saruman attacked the Rohirrim army under Theodred, son of Théoden, Grimbold and Elfhim. Saruman's main objective was to kill Theodred. The chief obstacles to an easy conquest of Rohan by Saruman was Theodred and Eomer. They were devoted to the king and were high in his affections, as his only son and his sister's son. They did all they could to thwart the influence that Grimr gained when the king's health began to fail. It was Grimr's policy to bring his chief opponents into discredit with Théoden, but the steadfast loyalty of Theodred and Eomer to their king, even in his apparent dotage, made it very difficult for Grimr to achieve this. Grimr therefore then tried to play one against the other in the mind of Théoden, representing Eomer as ever eager to increase his authority. In this he achieved some success, which bore fruit when Saruman at last succeeded in achieving his goal with the death of Theodred. After Theodred was slain, Saruman's army withdrew. The second battle followed only 7 days later. With Théoden's son gone, at the first battle of the Fjord, his nephew Eomer became his heir. Eomer, however, fell out of favour with Wormtongue and was placed under arrest. When Gandalf the White, Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli appeared before him, Théoden initially rebuked Gandalf's advice to resist Saruman. After being released from the effects of Grimr, he commanded Hammer to release his nephew and bring him his sword. Théoden, under the advice from Gandalf, advanced to face the invasion by the forces of Saruman. However, on meeting Cheryl on the road and realising the strength of Isengard, he rode instead to the fortress of Hornburg, and shortly thereafter successfully defended the keep of the Battle of Hornburg, despite overwhelming odds. After this, he became better known as Théoden Ednu the Renewed, because he had thrown off the yoke of Saruman. Following the battle, Théoden came with Gandalf to the ruins of Isengard, where he met Meriadoc Brandybuck and Peregrine Took. He soon had favour for Merry, and expressed a great interest in hearing more about the Shire, especially hobbit lore surrounding pipeweed. Riding to Dunharrow by mountain path to find the muster of the Rohirrim in full swing. That night, errand riders from Gondor arrived and presented him with the red arrow, a symbol of dire need, and summoned to fulfill the oath of Earl. When Gondor called for aid, Théoden declared that Rohan would answer. Théoden then led 6,000 Rohirrim to the aid of Gondor at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, bravely charging the legions of Sauron, where he won great glory by defeating a chieftain of the Southrons, along with the bearer of a banner depicting a black serpent. He challenged the Witch King of the Nine Ringwraiths and was mortally wounded when his horse Snowmane fell upon him after being spooked by the Witch King's winged steed. He was quickly protected by Éowyn and Merry, both of whom had ridden to war in secret. Théoden's wounds were mortal and he perished on the Pelennor Fields. His body was preserved in the hollows of Minas Tirith under Éomer and returned with the cortege. Théoden was then burned in the Barrowfield outside of Edoras, the last king of the second line. After his death, the Rohirrim minstrel Glendowen composed a song for him and the other kings of Rohan. So that was the story of King Théoden. I know this is a much shorter video than the stuff I normally do, but I just felt it was important to talk about him and to celebrate the legacy that was the character of King Théoden, created by Tolkien and portrayed by the legendary Bernard Hill. And I just wanted to have a moment to celebrate a part of his legacy that I know other Tolkien fans will remember forever. So if you like this kind of content, please stick around and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on any future videos. I plan on covering some of the battles pretty soon, so if that's more the kind of stuff you're into, then please stay tuned for that. But anyway, that will be it from me today, so I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Bye for now.